classes, we will cover rest of the Cadence simulations. And Cadence is anyway, you don't have to do it offline. It is only going to help you in quiz and Viva, as I mentioned last week. So today we are going to continue with common source amplifier, which is our second experiment. And within common source, there are two parts, as you must be knowing, as per my notice given earlier. Now, so before starting the experiment, we will cover certain things, such as, or rather, I'll declare certain information regarding experiment one submission. So I'm going to request the Moodle team to put up a website, and typically, or as per the notice, today should have been the last date for uploading the LT Spice experiment on inverter design, inverter schematic simulation. But we will extend. I will extend it until next few days. So let's see until when Moodle can give me the exact time and date when they will be up. So I'll send you a separate email anytime today or tomorrow or day after. So it depends on Moodle team also, because based on their configuration that they have to do at their in their website or in their web server. So you have to upload your reports to the Moodle server, and then you make sure that your naming of the file is done as per the format that I specified. So if I don't see the proper format for name and roll number, obviously your file will be treated as if you are not submitted. Okay, because you have to help me in making the things coherent, such that the TAs who will be checking your reports can easily find your roll numbers and names, so that they can update your marks for each of the experiments separately. Now, regarding the type of experiment, I think you may have started doing the LT Spice experiment, which is not so difficult, but at the same time, you have to do it of your own. You have to spend some time to learn the tool, which is pretty simple, I guess.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, may I
Yes.
ask you?
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, so I had some doubts regarding the experiment one. Can I discuss them with you now?
Yeah, I'll. You can discuss that. Let me finish. I think one or two
Okay,
small points are remaining, and then you
okay,
can ask, and then we can start. That should be okay. Hmm. Okay. So regarding that experiment one that I'm telling, so I will emphasize strictly on the quality of your presentation. In the sense, quality means what? How well you have understood. It will be reflected through your simulation plots, clarity of the plots, labels, captions, and descriptions. Okay, so you have to observe, you have to write down the observations, you have to write in your own words whatever you have experienced and what are the problems you have faced in your simulation and what are the limitations of the simulation. So that also you can discuss. That's not, limitation part is not optional, it's optional, it's not compulsory. But more importantly, the compulsory part should be how different it is from others. So the circuit diagram or the schematic diagram should look the same, but you should change the parameters of the transistors, input parameters, load parameters for all these experiments, not just inverter, but for common source also. You can always change some values, and then you will see some changes in your waveforms or plots, and then you have to justify why those changes are coming based on those values. Try to make theoretical justification such that you can basically say that, okay, given the values of, let's say, resistors and capacitors or voltage or sizing of transistor, uh, relate that with equations about to your with your simulation results. Okay, try to think what other changes coming up if you compare with your friends, but why it is coming up, that is very important. So you have to justify, write it down briefly. Do not make your reports very lengthy. Also, at the same time, do not make it 1 or 2 pages. At least spend a few pages in with the plots and diagrams. Okay, so you can always basically submit it before the deadline, and after the deadline, obviously there will be marks penalty. And after the deadline, first of all, you cannot upload it directly unless I open it. So I will personally check who are the people who haven't submitted on time, and then we will take their submissions, but with some marks penalty. So that is to do justice to the students who will be submitting on time and doing the work diligently. So I insist everyone to take it very seriously and take all these assignments quite seriously, such that it is very easy to score marks. And I want everyone to learn properly and everyone to score well as well. So these are the objectives why I'm telling all these things. Okay, so these are a few announcements. So if you have any questions about the last experiment, so you can ask now, or the TAs
Sir,
are also, yeah, we can answer.
sir, so
Yeah.
the value of threshold voltage, V threshold, it will depend on the driving strength of the NMOS and the PMOS, and will be equal to 0.9 only if the driving strength is equal for both NMOS and PMOS, right?
See, the threshold voltage is expressed through the equation which is there in the book. So if you change the width and length of the transistor, obviously the driving strength of the transistors will change. That means current handling ability is going to change for the transistor. For having, it is not necessary that both PMOS and NMOS should have the same threshold voltage. It is absolutely not necessary. It can be different. Basically, obviously polarities are different, but in addition, the magnitude of the threshold voltage may also be different. So based on that, your transfer characteristics will, the shape of the transfer characteristics will change. Okay, so don't worry about the matching of the threshold voltages for both. So you
But
can take.
I'm not talking about the threshold voltage of the NMOS and PMOS. I'm talking from the curve where we'll get the point with the intersection with Y equals X line. That
So
point.
you mean transfer characteristics curve?
Yeah, the VTC
Or
curve, the point that we'll get on intersection with the VTC with the Y equals X line.
let me understand your question properly. So, which curve you're talking about? Your time domain or the
So the
transfer
VTC, V out
characteristics?
versus V in transfer
V out,
characteristics.
that is transfer characteristics.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So that 45-degree line you are talking about?
Sir, that I'm just asking the point where V out equals V in.
Okay. While V out equals V in.
I mean, sir, like in theory, we have been taught like we'll get the V threshold point. The V threshold point is a point below which all voltages will be treated as logic zero, and above that, all voltages will be treated as logic high, right?
So that is for only NMOS or only PMOS circuit. So in CMOS circuit, obviously that how can you consider that? So in CMOS circuit, so below the threshold voltage, your NMOS should be off. Whereas at that same voltage, your PMOS could be on, right? So you cannot say that basically that while V out equal to V in, so at what voltage? So at V out equal to V in equal to VDD by 2, at that time both the transistors may turn on partially. Okay, so that is the basically risky part. You don't operate your digital circuits at that voltage. You can always operate your analog circuits at such voltage where V out equal to V in. And it is closely, basically, it is almost equal to VDD by 2. So at that time, basically, you don't have to operate. Basically, that's something that you don't want for your digital circuits to operate. But in the transfer characteristics, it is basically if you are observing. So what is the relationship between input voltage and output voltage, and that slopey part in the middle, where the slopey part you get to see basically where the curvy part of the waveform or of that plot, actually not waveform, that plot just represents that what are the range of voltages that you should avoid in a digital circuit. So does that clear your answer question, or you're asking for still something else?
Like my main question was like if the if the width of both the NMOS and PMOS are same, then the VTC where the part where the high voltage changes into low voltage, that will not be at the exact mid at the midpoint,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like it will not be at
True.
VDD by like
Yeah, why
it
that
should not be at
happens?
VDD by like that is because the mobility of electrons and holes are different,
Yes,
and in NMOS
yes,
the majority. Yeah, so
yeah.
my question was in actually in LT Spice, like if we keep the width of both NMOS and PMOS to be the same, that slope part like that comes exactly at VDD by 2 at 0.9 volts.
Uh, Sir, may I So I checked it online. So the default parameters are taken for PMOS4 and NMOS4 by LT Spice, and in it the mobility of like mu and Cox is same for both PMOS and NMOS if we take the default parameters taken by LT Spice. So sir, that was the result in
Yes.
my report as well.
So, sir, if we want to get an accurate simulation, we should include a model file which contains the
Exactly.
parameter values of NMOS and PMOS. That will give accurate
Exactly.
results. I checked.
Yeah, true. So this model file basically typically comes from the foundries such as TSMC and other companies who manufacture these chips. So in this case, we haven't asked you to include that model file. So typically the model files are called as PDKs, process design kits. Okay, so this is basically a very large and in-depth, very long and detailed model of the transistors that we are going to fabricate. But in LT Spice, so such a detailed model is not available. First of all, those models you can get from those foundries with a non-disclosure agreement. So those are basically restricted and confidential documents that is already downloaded for Cadence, and in Cadence, so those model parameters are pre-installed. Okay, so we don't have to look at it, and even we don't have to know them in detail while doing simulations. But as a designer, analog designer, you must know them properly. Okay, in LT Spice, so you can either put the values of those model parameters like COX, the skein, and all those values, and in LT Spice, in fact, if you consider instead of NMOS 4, if you take a pre-installed transistor number from the library, you will find that there are a lot of MOSFET numbers which are available. So in those MOSFET, the models are correctly assigned. Okay, but the approach that we took is a very simplified approach, just to make sure that we are just considering W and L, and we are just ignoring other parameters of that same MOSFET. Okay, so that's why, so if you put your model parameters correctly or in detail, obviously you will get much more accurate, so that 50% point will not be at VDD by 2 if you put all the parameters correctly. But here we are considering ideal kind of MOSFETs, and that is why you are getting that observation at VDD by 2 at 50% point. They are same.
Yeah. So, for actually, I checked like there are some like not very expensive, but there are short text file models available for LT Spice that we can
Available.
include in LT
Yeah,
Spice.
you can
And if
include,
we include
definitely.
that, then that will give more accurate results. So we can use that
Absolutely.
for us.
Definitely, you can include that. So if you want to include, definitely you can. So I have no restriction about that. Okay. So if you want to do more accurate simulations, you can also take any one of those available MOSFETs from its library, such that your simulation runs more accurately. That's also possible. So NMOS 4 was a
Okay, sir.
representative way to do that. Okay. Any other question?
Sir, in the experiment wherein you told to change the X label to V of Vn, when some input port, sir, and there were multiple.
So your voice is disrupting.
Plots in it, and you said,
Can you please repeat? Your voice is disrupting.
yes, sir. Sir, am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So in the VTC curve which we plotted, we had multiple plots, and sir, you said that it was due to multiple iterations in LT Spice. Sir, now if we change the load capacitance to a much higher value, say 1 nanofarad, sir, those curves split up, means they are not together, and they're kind of they're not lying over each other, something like that. So which point should we take then? Means which would be the correct iteration?
So whenever you are getting close by curves, you can take that value, but obviously you have to justify that why such things are happening, because it might be happening due to the stored charge in the capacitance, right? So once you have a load capacitor, and we are considering that capacitor to be ideal, so there is no leakage through it. So that means whatever charge you are transferring to the capacitor during one of the cycles, let's say you are charging up the capacitor through PMOS, then you have to discharge it completely through the NMOS. Otherwise, you will have this problem of that splitted curve. Now, if you have a large capacitance, so large capacitance at the same time ideal capacitance. So that means you are storing lots of charge in it as compared to a smaller capacitance, and then you have to recover all the charge. If you cannot do that, so that means why recovery is not possible always easily. If you put a 50% duty cycle for your input waveform, if you consider your input waveform, it's a square wave like waveform, right, or a rectangle wave. So total amount of time for T on period and total amount of time for T off period, if you keep them same, we call that as a 50% duty cycle as per definition of duty cycle. Now, the strength of the transistors NMOS and PMOS are different, and due to mobility, all those things are different. The driving strength differs. So that means even if by changing mobility into 2 times or whatever factor with compared to NMOS and with respect to NMOS and PMOS, in that case, the driving strength may not be still matched. So driving strength is likely to be unmatched, even if you accurately or try to do that ratio of width. So width of PMOS is 2 times of NMOS. In that case, the driving strength may not be exactly equal, although we consider mobility. That's an approximation. And due to this approximation, so whatever charge you are transferring to the load capacitance is not recovered completely or fully from during the other half cycle of the input waveform. Let's say while the input is while the input is 0, output should be 1, right? So while output is 1 means what? PMOS is charging the capacitor, and discharging may not be uniformly done at the end of the 50%, other 50% of the input waveform. So as a result, the stored charge becomes more and more mismatched as you increase the load capacity, right? Because the driving strength remains same. Now the difference of charge recovery and the charging and discharging cycles are more unequal, or rather the effect is more profound in that case. That's why you get a splitted curve. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Got it.
Okay. Any other question? Okay, so tentatively you have to submit your assignment for experiment 1 by another 2 days tentatively. Okay, so please don't fail the deadline, and from next week onwards we will have the deadline on the on Mondays itself, Monday night. So next for the common source amplifier, the first experiment in common source will have the deadline of next week, next Monday night. Okay, so Parth, are you able to set up your computer, or shall I share the screen? Parth?
No, sir. Sorry, I'm unable to do that.
Okay, okay. So Parth, you please be online. I will be sharing the video that you prepared, and I will be explaining to the students. And if some question comes, you can also answer. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Fine.
Okay, fine. So let me set up the video. Okay, so today we are going to see or watch a video on common source amplifier design by using a MOSFET, N-channel MOSFET. And while doing that, we will actually try to see how to analyze the waveforms in terms of AC frequency response, as well as transient time domain response. Okay, now let me share the screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
So this is Parth's video that he has recorded. So we will play it, and then Parth, you can actually keep on speaking while I am playing the video. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. And I'll also stop at some points, and I'll also add some more points as we go along. Okay. So Parth, you can basically explain what you have done over here.
Okay, sir. So see, this is a typical model of a common source amplifier with resistive load. So here Vs is my source, and RD and RS, these are the resistances. R2 and R1, these resistances will keep the transistor in the required region. This is we need the transistor in saturation region for it to act as an amplifier. My load is RL is a load, and CSH is also the load capacitance. CV is a blocking capacitor, and CS is the CS is capacitor. It is there to reduce so to increase the gain in AC analysis and to keep that and during DC it is on. So during DC it will keep the transistor in that region. Yes, sir. I think I mentioned these things in video also.
Okay. And how about the substrate connection? You have connected to ground, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Please explain that.
Because the substrate should be connected to the lowest potential in a NMOS, so that there is no body biasing or there is change in threshold voltage.
Okay. So this is basically a standard common source amplifier, as he said, and he has set a sine wave at the input, and he has also set basically the values for all these components. So now we'll see as I run, we'll see each and everything. Okay, so look at the parameters for the source connection. So it is a sine wave of 1 millivolt amplitude at 10 kilohertz. So first we'll do transient analysis, and then we'll continue with AC analysis. So transient means time domain analysis or time domain simulation. AC analysis is frequency domain simulation. So Parth, you can explain this.
Yes, sir. Sir, can you pause the? Okay. Sir, someone's mic is on.
Oh, someone's mic is on. Okay, let me see. Okay. Now
Yes,
you
sir.
can
Can I?
continue. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So in the diagram, use the common source amplifier with a resistive load. First, we are going to do the transient analysis, that is the time domain analysis. For that, I keep the source as a sine wave. The frequency was 10 kilohertz and the amplitude was, I think, 1 millivolt. And the common source amplifier, we know the output is 180 degree out of phase and the gain is minus GM RL dash. So for that, I'm going to check the output for a time period of 1 millisecond. And I think in the rest you can see in the results there in the video. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So where did you touch? You can explain, Parth.
Yes, sir. See, this is the output voltage V naught, which is across RL and CSH. And I've also placed the input alongside it in the, sir, if we forward the video, we can see the input and output together.
Yes. Look at the area here. It's touched over here.
Veen, this is Veen. So this is basically V in and V out. So V in is, you can see V out is a 180-degree out of phase V in, and the V in is varying from 1 millivolt to -1 millivolt, and corresponding output is varying much more. So the gain is high and 180-degree out of phase. Yes, sir. Now I think this is changing for the AC analysis, changing the source. We will put AC amplitude as 1 here. And then here we have to edit the simulation command also from transient to AC analysis. Sir, have you stopped the video? So in the source, I'll change it to none and they put AC amplitude as 1. And then for AC analysis, I'll have to edit the simulation command also. That you will see when we serve forward the video, you can see that. See, AC analysis, you have to do it in that sweep type decade is, and the number of points per decade. There will be starting and final frequency, the frequency range for which you want to take the or check the gain. That range I provided there. Yes, sir. I think this is enough. Sir, can you again play the video, please?
Parth, can you explain this?
Yes, sir. See, for AC analysis, we are going to check the gain of the circuit, that is V out upon V in, with respect to different frequency ranges of input. So this is like AC analysis. In it, I'll check the output with respect to different frequency ranges. So we'll check the frequency. We will take the frequency axis, and if I think you have studied Bode plot in the decade, the type of sweep is decade. I'm taking 100 points per decade, and the starting and the final frequency, the frequency range over which we need to check the gain. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So here actually we need to do a frequency sweep for frequency analysis. So we will do a sweep from 5 hertz to 10 megahertz. Okay. So he's going to write 10,000 K over here, and then there will be in every decade there are only 100 simulation points. So more the simulation points, it will be more accurate simulation
More accurate.
waveforms or plots, whereas the simulation time might be very high or relatively high if you go increase the number of points per decade. Make sure that you don't have this tran, and .ac together. So any one of these two should be there in your simulation window. So here we'll delete that tran.
Yeah, I have deleted that, sir.
Look at this, he clicked over here.
I clicked over V note
So
here.
you can explain here part.
Yes, sir. So see, there are
Your
two
voice,
capacitances.
please increase the volume part. Your voice is
Okay,
too
sir.
small. Too
Yes, sir.
small.
Sir, now can you hear me?
Slightly better,
Hello?
not so good.
Okay, sir. So I'm hearing some sounds. I think someone's mic is on.
I cannot hear you.
Yes, sir. Sir, I'm hearing some noise.
Okay.
This is V naught upon V curve with respect to different frequency ranges. So you can see the range is from 5 hertz to some 10 gigahertz. So gain is first increasing, then there is a constant value, and then it is decreasing. There is a peak there. That is because of some reasons I'll try to explain later. So first, we can see that low frequency and high frequency, the gain is decreasing. That is due to two factors: the blocking capacitor and the load capacitor. So for the small load values, the capacitor is like an open circuit, the blocking capacitor for small frequency values, and by increasing the value, that will be short circuit. That's why the gain is increasing. Now the CSH, which is the load capacitor, that is quite low. So at high frequencies, that will become short circuit. Again reducing at high frequency. Sir, are you able to hear me? Will you?
Okay. Okay, so basically this is a Bode plot that we are going to see. So your x-axis is frequency and there are two y-axis. So first one is V out by Vi, which is in decibels. So you have to do that 20 log 10 of VO by Vi for this decibel scale. And all of these dB values are in positive side. So much larger than 0 dB. That means there is a gain. So the amplifier operation is successful because everything is in positive decibels. And here the phase angle on the right hand side axis, y-axis, are all in degrees. So these are phase angles. Okay. So this is a Bode plot. So the dotted line indicates phase angle and the solid line indicates gain.
So yes, so now I'm trying to show you the effects of increasing the width of the transistor in the gain plot. I've increased the width 10 times.
So
here you can see that the gain has increased significantly, and also the bandwidth has also increased for the circuit.
yeah, and gain also the waveform, the shape of the frequency response for the gain is actually quite smooth now. So there is no glitch.
Ideal,
of
quite
thing.
ideal.
Yeah.
So now I will change the value back to its previous value of the width of the transistor, and we'll try to check the gain versus frequency response by changing the load resistance.
So what you are doing over here, part you just explain here.
Yes. So now, yes, sir. See, now what we are trying to check is I will vary the load resistance, so the gain of this amplifier will vary, and we will try to check what is the effect of that load resistance over gain and bandwidth of the circuit.
Okay. And how you are getting this right hand side, lower right side window? So just tell the shortcut
Yes.
key also.
Just click on that. You can see V and N002 in the bracket. If you right click on that, you will get that window.
Okay. So you have to right click on this kind of captions, and then it'll automatically come out, because this is VN002, which is same as this.
So in this by this window, I'll try to check the 3 dB frequency for this circuit.
So he's trying to see the 3 dB frequency by sliding the cursor over here. You can see. So what is 3 dB frequency? Actually, it is minus 3 dB frequency, because the maximum one is whatever 26 point something decibel. So you have to come 23 point, basically the three minus point from the maximum decibel value, and you have to observe the frequency value. So that is the cutoff frequency. I'll just quickly. So 4.19 is the cutoff frequency.
Yes. So now I will change the gain or change the load. So let's see the effect over the gain and frequency.
Yes. Okay, so just explain the bandwidth once again properly.
Yes, sir. So we saw in the circuit that when we increase the gain by increasing the load value, see the gain has increased, but the 3 dB bandwidth it has decreased. So ideally there is a relation gain bandwidth product. which is constant for a amplifier circuit. So if you increase the gain, the bandwidth will decrease, and vice versa. So if you decrease the gain, the bandwidth will increase. The product of the gain and bandwidth will remain constant, ideally.
And so here you have seen the effect of the load value. Okay, so RL was changed, and as a result, the values of gain and bandwidths are proportionately getting scale up or down. And same thing you can do, change the gain and bandwidth from this RD values also. Okay, so if you change RD RS values, obviously your gain is going to change, and proportionately your bandwidth is also change. That means if gain is increasing, bandwidth is decreasing, and vice versa. And tentatively, a gain bandwidth is a product which is a constant value, but it is not a hard constant value. So obviously there will be some variation if you go over a large range. Okay. So you have to basically repeat this experiment. I'll be uploading this video by part, and all of you must repeat this experiment. You have to redraw your circuit. You can change the parameters, like even R1, R2, RD, RS, all the values can be modified. But whatever you do, make sure that your circuit is properly working. It is giving some gain and it is having certain bandwidth. You get to see the band pass like characteristics, right? So as you have seen, so this any amplifier is a band pass filter with some gain. So we should get this upper and lower cutoff frequencies. In fact, in your experiments, you should find out both upper and lower cutoff frequencies. Okay. So the cutoff frequency at this side and cutoff frequency at the other side as well. So in the simulations, again, you have to basically write your justifications, why the gain is changing, why the bandwidth is proportionately scaling with gain, and also what are the reasons behind this entire circuit. So reasons in the sense that why we are using these components like CC, CB, CS as Parth has explained. So you have to basically go through and briefly describe the role of each and every components, and also this CSH, which is again load side capacitance, which is not being changed over here, but you should also try changing this capacitance and play with its value and find the effect of the output gain and bandwidth. So this is the common source amplifier with a resistive load. Okay. So next week we will see with the MOSFET load or active load. Okay, so is anyone having question? Do you have questions? Can you please ask if you have questions?
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, in the final plot wherein we plotted the AC analysis curve, it was plotted as if it was V out by Vn, right? I mean, 20 log V out by Vn. But normally we get just 20 log V out by 1, right?
Why 1? If the input voltage is 1, then it is 1. If the V input is not 1, obviously, yeah. So you need not keep that input voltage to be 1. It can be anything. It may be in millivolt also.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So you have, it's not necessary that input should always be 1. It can be any other value.
Also, sir, it does
But
not
whatever is the value over a frequency sweep, that input voltage magnitude should be constant. You can take 2 also, no problem. You can take millivolt, 1 millivolt also.
Also, sir, it does not consider clipping when we are doing AC analysis. It takes only small signal model.
Right.
Is that okay, sir?
Right. You should always make sure through transient analysis that there is no clipping action happening. If there is clipping, obviously your gain will fall down unnecessarily. So that is signal handling capacity of your amplifier should be verified through transient analysis. So initially you have to do that because by selecting RD and RS, you are actually selecting RDRS and VDD. These three values are actually combined together, determine what is the signal handling capacity, apart from obviously the MOSFET characteristics like threshold voltage and total VDS SAT. All those things combined together determines the signal handling capacity.
And so,
And
what
you should
was the
understand,
peaky
you should
behavior?
understand the role of every component. Yeah, question.
Yeah, I was asking that in the first graph of the Bode plot, we had a peaky behavior, right? What we normally expect is a tabletop, as in the subsequent graphs. So why was there a peak like that?
Oh, this peak. Okay, so this is happening due to loading possibly. So now the point is, initially it is trying to go to some 29 or whatever dB, and then after some particular frequency actually, so it is getting loaded. So that means your amplifier is not properly designed. Your amplifier, if all the values are correctly designed, you should get this kind of flat portion. So this kind of little shootout is okay, but it should be more or less flat between the cutoff frequencies, and the flat pass band should be actually as flat as possible. But here your question is why there is a peak. One sec. So in this case, why there is peak? It is basically initially the loading is not so profound. So let's try to look at the schematic and try to analyze that. Okay, so initially you are getting that peak because there is no possibly there is the CS. So what is CS? This is a bypass capacitor. So at higher frequency, it is actually bypassing some signals, right? And if the signals are getting bypassed, so what is happening actually? You're compensating for the gain, but as a result, but at the same time, your ID is also quite high, right? And if your ID is high, so that means this voltage is actually dropping to some extent. So that is only happening before it comes to a steady state, or basically flat passband gain. And if you change, rather if you change the value of this load resistance and other capacitance values like load capacitance and so on, then the circuit becomes more stabilized, in fact, and then the effect of CS comes at much higher frequencies. Okay, so see, once there is a current coming, so from VDD, there is a current coming through RD. And once it comes over at this node, there are two directions, right? One goes to the output side, other one goes to the MOSFET side. So based on your selection of load, so this current division at this node also varies. And if it finds that lower impedance path at higher frequencies over here, so there are two capacitors here also, right? So at higher frequencies, these two capacitors act like a short. And not just two capacitors, but this capacitor, this resistor is also there. So that means this CC along with RL and CSH forms a CRC circuit. CRC circuit. So that means this is also like a high pass filter. So that means at higher frequency, this starts more conducting. So by adjusting the correct values of this combination of the components, basically the currents that are going through this path and this path, you can essentially adjust your wave shape from this, which is actually quite low. So see, this is 26 only. And by changing the values, he's going to 34 and so on. So what he did, he has changed this width of the transistor, right? So by changing the width of the transistor, what exactly is happening? By changing the width of the transistor, he's actually controlling how much ID will go through this. And if more ID is going through this, obviously less load current is going through this side. So the total current is constant, assuming total current through RD is constant. So by changing the width of the MOSFET, so you are actually, so from 1 micron to 10 micron, so it is actually getting more current over here. So either you have to adjust the width over here or adjust the values at the load side. Okay, so that's what he did. So from 1 micrometer, he changed to 10, and just by putting 10, so what is happening? So he was getting more current through the MOSFET. And if there is more current going through the MOSFET, that means more current is also getting voltage drop. Also, due to that extra current through ID, if there is more current through the MOSFET, obviously there is more voltage drop here also, right? Through RS as well. At low frequencies, obviously this is happening. At high frequencies, this CS turns on. But at lower frequencies, this RS is getting more voltage drop. So the voltage drop across VDS terminals and plus the voltage drop across RS resistor combined together is this one with respect to ground, because your reference point is ground. So by changing the width or increasing the width, you are getting a more current, and as a result, more voltage drop is happening across RS, and then you are getting larger voltage over here. So if you get a larger V output voltage, then obviously V input is constant, Vi is constant, so V output by Vi increases, and that is why it was going from this steady state value was 23.3 approximately to this 34 dB. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other question? Any other question?
And sir, about the first experiment, I think Janesh also asked that when you increase the load capacitance, you get the split up graph, right? So
Please repeat the question. One
like
second, I'm
I
unable to
think
hear.
yeah, I think Janesh asked earlier about the first experiment that if you increase the load capacitance, then the graph, the VTC actually splits, right? So uh, it looks something like of a hysteresis curve, right? It looks like a hysteresis
Yeah.
curve. So I was thinking that is it such that it takes one path when you're going from 0 to 1.8, then another part from 1.8 to 0? Like, is that it? Like, is
Yeah,
that the
exactly. So you are charging. So you can think of you're talking about the previous experiment, experiment one. So in that experiment, you can think that there are two time constants. So there is charging time constant. So the PMOS internal resistance under on state and the load capacitance. So load capacitance is fixed value, but the on resistance of PMOS is unequal than that of on resistance of NMOS. So R on for PMOS into CL load capacitance is a time constant value, and R on of NMOS into load capacitance is another time constant value. So as a result, you are getting two time constant. That means you cannot charge and discharge if your activation signal has the same charging and discharging time. In that case, obviously, due to those two time constants, you do not expect your capacitor to be fully discharged or fully charged or uniformly charged and discharged. So there is an automatic non-uniformity unless you adjust those two time constants to be same. So by adjusting the width of the MOSFETs, you can essentially control R on of the MOSFETs. And if R on values are very, very well matched, then only you don't get to see those hysteretic effect that you are talking about. Okay, so is that convincing, or you're still having questions about it?
Yeah, I'm convinced, I think. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, think in terms of time constant. I think that is more formal way of looking at things. So by changing width, what we are exactly doing? We are changing the R on value. While the transistor is on, what is the on resistance of that transistor between drain and the source? So that is R on of a transistor. You have to match them by accurate sizing ideally, but accurate sizing may not be possible. So what is the possible solution if you don't want that hysteretic effect? Change the duty cycle of your input waveform. Instead of 50% duty cycle, you have to either adjust it to 45 or 55 or something like that. So you have to adjust, you have to change the duty cycle from 50% to some nearby values. Even after considering PMOS is having twice the width as compared to NMOS. If you have question, you can always ask again. If you just think what I just told you, think in terms of time constant for the charging and discharging sides, current paths for the load capacitance. Okay, any other question?
Sir,
Yes.
I just had an observation in the first experiment. In that, I increased the width of the PMOS, which is the W2, to a very high extent, means about 5
Just
to
a
10.
moment. Please wait a moment. Somehow the voice is so light that I cannot hear properly. Let me adjust the volume. I think volume is correct only. Okay, so please say loudly because I'm unable to hear. I don't know how about others. Yeah, please start.
Sir, is it
with the
audible now?
question. Yeah, you are audible, but your voice is so light that I cannot perceive it very accurately every time. How about others? Others can hear his voice properly or light voice? You are getting light volume.
Audible, sir.
Okay, so I don't know what happened to my system. Okay, so I'll try to listen properly again. So please say that.
Sir, in the first experiment, I made
Mhm.
the width of PMOS to be about 10 times of NMOS.
Okay.
So that means the T rise time would be comparatively lower than fall time, right?
Yes, should be.
Yes, sir. But while carrying out the observations, I'm not getting the same result. Means both are reducing approximately the same amount. Means if earlier it was 10 power minus 5, then they both become 10 power minus 6.
Okay, so it might happen that your what is the series resistance of your DC source or that V pulse source? That is also another consideration. And another consideration could be that your load capacitance is so small that it is totally getting charged very quickly. So you will get that change. So not just by weight change, but also if you change the capacitance value, you will find there should be some difference. So I'm just considering that your width of the MOSFET for PMOS, which is 10 times than NMOS, is so wide that it is almost instantaneously charging the capacitor. So have you measured rise time and fall time through simulation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you are getting both of them to be same. So that means uh, both are 10 to the power minus 5 seconds. You mean?
First, I will say the exact value. Just a minute.
Can you
Sir,
share your
both of
screen?
yes, sir. Sir, this was the time domain analysis when P was 20 and N was 2. So I got rise time and fall time, something like this.
One second. CMOS 20 micro and NMOS is 2 micron.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Red is the output waveform.
Red is the input because it had certain ramp-like characteristics,
Oh,
and
red
green
is
is
your
the
very sharp input. Okay. And green is the output.
yes, sir. Sir, and I attached the rise and fall time characteristics over here.
Mhm.
So they're almost very similar.
And both are having 180 nanometer length.
Yes, sir. I didn't change the length at all.
Show the
Sir, should I
waveform.
stop? Yes,
No,
sir.
just show it once again. Show me your schematic.
Yes, sir. So this.
Rise. So yeah, what is this rise equal to 1 and fall equal to 1? So that means you are setting up the rise time and fall time for your
Measurement.
V
Yes, sir.
signal. Okay. Can you forward your simulation file to me in the dot draft whatever dot ASC file? I'll
Yes,
look
sir.
at it
Yes, sir.
offline,
Sure,
and
sir.
then I'll possibly get back to you and also share with others. I need to look at your simulation in detail.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
Sir, I think if we increase the capacitance to around like 50,000 picofarad, we can observe the difference in rise time and fall time.
Please repeat that.
Like if we increase the capacitance to a very high value, like around like 0.1 or 0.01 microfarad, then we can observe the difference in rise time and fall time.
That makes sense. That could be a possibility. So if the capacitance is too large, obviously the difference is so small that you don't get to see it much. That is a possibility, but I'll still look at the simulation in detail and try to tell you the exact reason why. Yeah, but this looks like a possibility. Okay. Any other question? Okay, let me download attendance. Okay, so next week we will cover common source amplifier with active load. I think it is pretty similar to this today's experiment with some small changes. So these two experiments are pretty similar to each other, so it should not take much time. So only thing, as I said, you should always try with new parameters and try to justify your results. If you have questions, obviously regarding experiment one, you can just email me your files. I'll try to look at it if you have any specific questions. But nevertheless, prepare your reports, prepare it such that you can easily upload it, quickly upload it whenever I will declare through Moodle. Okay, any other question regarding today's experiment or yesterday's last week experiment? Okay, so if there is no other questions, so we can actually stop the class today, because this experiment is only about this much only in LT Spice. If it would have been in Cadence, obviously it would have taken a slightly longer time, but still not so long, but slightly longer time for each of those experiments in Cadence. Okay, so please make sure that you upload your first experiment on time, such that I'm insisting again and again, because that will carry marks. I don't want you to get penalized for delay. Okay, so any other questions? If you don't have any question, then you can leave, or if you have questions, you can stay back. I am around.
Sir, could you please tell what is the expected deadline for the first experiment?
In another 2-3 days max. It depends on model setup.
Yes, sir.
So the TAs, some announcement. Is there any new TA who have joined late? Shubhamoy Chatterjee, Joyasmita Chatterjee, Punarjit Singh, Abhishek Jain, Parth, you have joined. Pritam Soni.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Pritam. Pritam Soni, not joined. Okay. So I'm marking the attendance for all the TAs as well as all the students. We'll have basically, I'll send a notice to the students who are not joining. Okay, and regarding the TA work, some of the TAs are helping me to develop videos and also give the explanation in the class. So I'll excuse them from report checking. So other TAs are going to check the reports while sharing the work. Okay, so there will be around 100 plus reports, whatever number, 122 or whatever number. So other TAs should help me on time. I'll tell you the directions, how to do the corrections and the marking strategy separately through an email. And everything we should, whatever we'll be following, we should do that uniformly for all the students in the class.